Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the show. I'm your boy John. You're watching John Talks Ball, and today we're going to be looking at 3 players you should be selling in Dynasty ahead of your rookie drafts to get an edge on those league mates. Let's get into it. Alright, so today we're going to start with selling Rashee Rice, wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs. Rashee Rice is coming off a pretty nuanced season. He came off of a large suspension to start the year, and then dealt with some injuries and got shut down at the end of the year as the Chiefs weren't winning games. Rashee Rice is going to be a sell for a lot of reasons today, but for starters, it's going to be his character. Rashee Rice has proven to be a bit of a problem player. He keeps getting into these issues, like the aforementioned suspension, and almost ran into another one this offseason. He's kind of a guy I describe as a toxic asset and someone you don't really want to be carrying into 2026. On top of that, we've seen the Chiefs be mocked a ton of different wide receivers, something I briefly went over in my previous Dynasty Buys video. It's very possible that someone is brought in who's a much better talent than Rice, who we know is getting a lot of his fantasy value from being attached to Patrick Mahomes and a lot of those short, gimmicky routes he runs. I think Rashee Rice is a very risky hold at price, because if the Chiefs do bring in an additional wide receiver, his value is going to be nuked. It's also been seen that the contract situation on Rice has been wishy-washy. The Chiefs are probably not eager to re-sign him to a long-term deal because of those character concerns, and there's a real chance he's not attached to Patrick Mahomes in the very near future. Alright, let's look at some of those deals you could be moving off Rashee Rice for. Alright, so this first deal we see here on the left is Rashee Rice exchanged for a 2027 first 1-for-1 swap. It's a Superflex 12-team league with full PPR, so it's easy to see why Rice might be an attractive option to have in this format. However, I'm going to make the case here for why you should be swapping it into that 2027 first. Dynasty is first and foremost a value game, and Rashee Rice is a guy who just probably doesn't have many paths to ascending in value, but so many existing paths to drop heavily. Rashee Rice has those injury issues he's been dealing with for many years, including torn ACL, concussions he's been dealing with, and that 2027 first just can't get hurt. It can't get suspended. It's just a pick that's going to grow in value until you're on the clock, then you can make the selection or trade it away. Here in the middle, we see Colston Loveland exchanged for Rashee Rice and Quinshon Judkins. In a 12-team, start 11, full PPR, half tight end premium league, Loveland is going to be scoring 1.5 points for every catch he has. While Rashee Rice is going to get those full PPR points, a small tier up with Quinshon Judkins should not be able to get you to Colston Loveland, and I'm smashing the Colston Loveland side of the deal here. In this third trade, we see Brian Thomas and Kenneth Walker packaged to receive Rashee Rice, the 308 and the 503. This is kind of a ridiculous price in my eyes. Brian Thomas is worth far more than this, and I would actually put his equivalent value probably around a guy like Rashee Rice. Brian Thomas has showed us he has what it takes to be elite, and one down, injury-riddled season is not enough to push me off him. That being said, if you want to push Brian Thomas for Rashee Rice 1-for-1, you're essentially getting a free Kenneth Walker added on in exchange for the 308 and the 503 in this year's class, picks I don't see being worth very much on the market. This is an easy swap. In most of the deals, it's easy to see why you'd want to get off the risk profile of Rice and move into a player or pick that has much better value upside and is much safer overall for your Dynasty team. Let's move into our next sell. So our second Dynasty sell of the day is going to be Giants tight end Isaiah Likely, who just inked that big contract with the Giants to be their new tight end 1. Isaiah Likely is 26 years old and just came off a season with 27 receptions, 307 yards, and a touchdown. Isaiah Likely is going to be a sell today, mostly because of the value bump he's getting in going into this new situation. I'd argue that the situation can only be called semi-new because he's playing for the exact same head coach that deployed him last year behind Mark Andrews, who as we can all see is on the decline side of his career. I think Isaiah Likely's value is being pushed up by what I'd like to call hopium. Everyone is projecting, watching their lineup, looking at their lineup yearningly, waiting for the season, and they're just picturing the upside case. But let's think about the downside case. We've seen a lot of cases where tight ends like this sign with a new team. Evan Engram, for example, could be one. They get this big value bump, and then they come in and they're not producing like we dreamed they might, looking at our lineup back in May. Now, the situation with the offense is also not perfect, and we know the Giants have 2 first-round picks, and they're very likely to bring in a fantasy-relevant player with those selections. If Isaiah Likely is anything worse, or even the third target in that offense, I just don't think you're going to get the production you want for the price he's going at on the market right now. Now let's go take a look at those prices and see why I'll be selling Isaiah Likely in any format I have him in. So this first deal on the left here is going to be the 112 and the 412 in exchange for Isaiah Likely and the 302. Here, we can essentially rule out the 412 and the 302. Those aren't doing much in this deal, so we're mostly seeing the 112 swapped for Isaiah Likely straight up. Isaiah Likely, while talented, we know what he is, and he's going into his second contract as a guy that's never really been able to break fantasy, even with Lamar Jackson, and I just don't see the vision for it on the Giants. The 112 is going to be a pick that gains value even more in the next few days as your rookie drafts begin to start, and we know that every year players go to landing spots or they go higher than we expected, and it always raises the price of those picks. And the best part about selling is that you can go to any single one of the managers in your league and offer around that pick, and you will get someone who has a my guy there and bites almost every single time. This deal in the middle, kind of similar, Isaiah Likely exchanged for a 2027 second round pick. You're going to have a little patience with this one, but a 2027 second is just so likely to be worth more than him. See what happened there, Likely. And he just doesn't have the upside. We've seen him work with Lamar Jackson, and if you can't do it with an elite quarterback like Lamar, you're probably not going to be able to do it with a similar rushing quarterback who isn't as developed like Jackson Dart. The 2027 second is going to rise in value. We know the class is set to be deep, and it's just likely to be much better of a pick come next year, with a little bit of patience. This final deal here on the right is going to be Isaiah Likely, the 211, and the 108 in exchange for Jordan Addison and a 2027 first-round pick. Jordan Addison is a talent that's been slept on for a lot of years, and now he's going to have a quarterback behind center again instead of 9 throwing the ball into the abyss. Jordan Addison, I would instantly take over the 108 in this year's class, so that's an easy swap, and then you're essentially getting Isaiah Likely for the 211 exchanged into a 2027 first, which we already discussed is gold, and I would take that right side of the deal pretty quickly instead of the Isaiah Likely side. Alright, let's move into our final sell of the day. Alright, so as you probably could have guessed from the thumbnail, the last player we're going to be looking to sell today is Quinshon Judkins, running back of the Cleveland Browns. Judkins is still quite young, 22 years old, but is coming off of a pretty significant leg injury and posted a season with 827 rushing yards, 26 receptions, and 7 touchdowns. The sell case for Quinshon Judkins is pretty simple. He's on the Browns. They're going to have a bottom 10 offense next year, unless a miracle happens with Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders, which feels very unlikely. And his scoring upside is very limited with that poor offense and the fact that he's just not a pass-catching running back. Now with that, we know the upside case on Judkins is very low, and he's not likely to be putting up crazy running back seasons. He's not going to break into the top 5. You need the pass-catching upside to make that happen. So, let's go see what Quinshon Judkins is going for on the market and why he's such an easy sell at the price he goes for today. Just one day ago, Judkins was exchanged 1-for-1 for Marvin Harrison Jr. in a 12-team Start 11 full PPR format. To me, this is a clear no-brainer, and we were just talking about buying Harrison at price last week. Judkins is a minimal pass-catching running back, which you'll feel the effect of even more in a full PPR league, and it's so easy to get out of him into a young wide receiver with staying power like Marvin Harrison Jr. In this middle deal here, we see Bijan Robinson exchanged for Ladd McConkey and Quinshon Judkins. Here, Ladd McConkey is just not enough to take your non-pass catching running back Quinshon Judkins and turn it into a Bijan Robinson, a running back that we all know has RB1 potential in this upcoming season. Ladd McConkey is cool. He's a guy that I'd be interested in acquiring, but just isn't enough to make Quinshon Judkins turn into Bijan Robinson in a full PPR format where Bijan is going to be catching a ton of passes. Alright, this third and final deal here. 6 days ago, we saw Quinshon Judkins exchanged for a 2027 first-round pick and a 2027 third-round pick. What we're seeing here is you can get out of the risk of a running back coming off a pretty major injury on a bad team with low upside for a 2027 first-round pick, which we've already discerned is gold. So that's an easy swap I'd make and take that 2027 first. I hope you enjoyed our 3 players you should be selling right now in Dynasty ahead of your 2026 rookie drafts. If you liked the video, please subscribe, hit that like button, and comment down below who you think is the biggest sell in Dynasty right now. If you're looking for more from me, I'm creating the John Talks Ball community Discord that's set to drop in early May, where you'll be able to access me for one-on-one Dynasty strategy advice, trade advice, and any other general questions you may have about Dynasty. Until then, hope to see you next time. I'm John, you've been watching John Talks Ball, and have a great day. Peace.